Let me just quickly introduce Tess. She actually messaged me on Instagram a few months ago, and we had a Zoom call. She was diagnosed with MS 2 years ago, and ever since she changed her lifestyle, mindset, her health, and she's on a similar journey. And she is interested in the same things that I am, including Joe Dispenza, Gabor Mate's work, Dr. Terry Walls. And I brought her here because I just want you guys to learn about her and what she's doing because it's just incredible how she was able to accomplish what it took me literally almost 4 times longer than her to get to this stage. So I'm just very amazed with whatever her health and everything that's going on. So can't wait to hear your story again.
Yes, great. Thanks for having me.
So you were diagnosed with MS 2 years ago, and can you tell us about your symptoms? How did it started?
Sure. So, yes, I was just before my 40th birthday. So in the January before I turned 40. And I started with a numbness on my right side. So it started around my knee, a numb sort of tingling feeling around my knee, which went down to my foot and then all the way up to my rib cage, sort of, yeah, right up underneath my ribs. And it just didn't go away. It was a feeling that I hadn't felt before. So I went to the doctor. The doctor didn't really know what it was either. I took some blood tests. He actually thought it might be some sort of tick that can cause paralysis, but then couldn't find anything. So he suggested I do an MRI, which I firstly did on my lower spine. At the time, my daughter was only 2.5, and I was carrying her a lot on my right side. So we thought that it could also be a pinched nerve. Um, and then I did the MRI on my lumbar spine, didn't show anything. So then he suggested I do another MRI on my upper spine and brain. And that's what showed some lesions. So I have some lesions in my thoracic spine and brain. So then he sent me to a neurologist. The neurologist then also performed a lumbar puncture. So it's where they get fluid to test for a particular protein, and which I had, the protein that was present with MS I had. And then he said, yes, it's looking like you have MS, and here's a bunch of medications. I was given I'd never taken medication before this. So I had like a long list of medications to choose from, um, which was very overwhelming. And so I ended up choosing a medication we have in Australia called Tecfidera. It's a medication, an immunosuppressant you take twice a day. And then I was sent on my way. So that's kind of how the journey started for me. So after that, I was like, I'm just not, I just wasn't fully buying into the whole way that came about and what was offered. It was literally just medication and that's it. And I was like, no, I don't know about this. So that sent me on a whole different rabbit hole with my health. So yeah, that's how it started.
Did you have
Um,
any symptoms prior to this experience? Like, how was your pregnancy? Did you notice anything there?
Not really. No, I had two children at that stage. So my son was about to start school. Um, I didn't know. Looking back, I had bouts of fatigue so at times where I'd be tired, but I also had two young kids. So sometimes it's hard to notice if that's just fatigue from not getting
Yeah.
sleep or it's more than that. Um, but not really. I'm going to say maybe some fatigue, but nothing like that numb feeling I had on my right side. That was very new. Yeah.
Yeah, we also have Tecfidera in United States. Did you eventually started medication?
So I started that medication. I took it for 12 months, and during that 12 months, I just didn't feel great on it. So I would eventually that numb feeling went away. I took a bout of steroids, 3 rounds of steroids, through a drip in the hospital. But that also didn't make me feel great. First two were fine. By the third one, it completely wiped me out. I think I was in bed probably for a week. But eventually the tingling did go away. And at times, though, I still had this sort of tightness, I'm going to say, on my right rib. But I didn't feel great on the medication. And the whole time I'm thinking, I just don't know if this is actually right. I felt hot a lot, like it affected my temperature. So I eventually at the time, I was also seeing an acupuncturist. And that was one of the holistic health methods I was looking at. And she introduced me to a whole host of herbs and things. So I started actually weaning off it. I went down to one and then none. Earlier this year that I stopped it. But yeah, that's another story too. So yeah, I did eventually go off it. Yes.
I did start acupuncture as well after my diagnosis, and I was pregnant at that time, so I was really
Mm.
scared. I wasn't sure if it's a good idea doing acupuncture while you are pregnant, but
Mm.
luckily I find a person who was very knowledgeable. So it's yeah, I miss those sessions. Did you change your diet right away, or what was the
Yes.
next step?
Yeah, so I think from there I went down a real rabbit hole. I had this always had this underlying feeling that things would be okay, that I wasn't going to. I'd never thought I'm going to get, really sick. I've always thought that, and I sort of didn't take on the illness and the identity of the illness. I sort of left it over there. I was like, okay, I'm be diagnosed with this. There's obviously something that's not right in my life. So I first looked at diet, and that's when I came across Terry Walls. Read everything that she had to offer and completely changed my diet. So I cut out gluten, I cut out sugar, I wasn't drinking that much. So yeah, I had a complete overhaul of diet. And that led me to a whole host of, we're looking at vitamins and mineral levels as well. So I was really monitoring my vitamin D, and yeah, definitely. And I
Did you
still do that now. I've gone through periods where I've then not, so for the first 6 months, I was really strict and then sort of started to introduce gluten again. But then now I've gone more, definitely with gluten. I don't eat gluten at all. Yeah.
you notice anything when you started eating again, like fatigue, weakness, any of those symptoms that I usually have when I eat gluten?
Yeah, it definitely, I didn't feel as good. And in April, I think I mentioned I came to the US for a family holiday and I was eating all the American food, which I'm not used to. And then I had another flare up. So I've had one flare up since I was diagnosed.
And this was
Um,
after visiting America.
yes, yes. And I came back and I said to my GP, something's off. It was a different feeling though, still on my right side, but really sort of these, almost like a muscle spasm. It was really bouts of really intense pain. I actually thought I had appendicitis or something, but then it would sort of go away. But it was really sensitive and sore to touch as well. And he said, yeah, you probably had a flare up. And I did say, I think it's the food. Like the food in America is obviously not the same. The oils that they use in the
I,
food is not the
I
same.
kind of want to think that it's because it's different what you are used to be eating, and that's why
Yeah.
you had a flare. But I also know that you are right. It's the food is not the healthiest here in this country, so I let everybody decide on this one. So
Yeah.
once you change your diet, you started feeling better right away. And then when was the time when you actually discovered Joe Dispenza and his teachings and the importance about mindset?
I've been following Dr. Joe for a while, sort of on and off. I think I started looking at him around 20, well, maybe I can't remember when it was, 2018. He came here briefly and I actually saw him in a workshop for a 1 day workshop. So that sort of actually, when I was pregnant, I remember I was pregnant doing his meditations with my daughter. So I've been doing them sort of his work before I was diagnosed, which I found fascinating. Um, so when I had the diagnosis, I sort of left part the Western side of medicine and then looked at Eastern side of medicine as well, which include Dr. Joe, things like acupuncture. I had a friend who was a kinesiologist. So I saw her. I went to a Dr. Joe retreat here in Australia, which was a 1 week retreat, which was fascinating. Just the power of meditation, I think that really opened my eyes up to and watching these people sort of transform their
I
health
want to hear
issues.
more about this retreat because I saw in a podcast actually yesterday when he
Yeah,
talks about these retreats, and my girlfriend,
yeah.
she's going to one of his retreats in January to Los
Oh,
Angeles. So
oh.
I'm so intrigued to go. Hopefully it's on my bucket list. But I want to hear what was the whole experience and how did you feel before and after? And did you see anybody who got up and left the wheelchair that he's been talking about?
No, I didn't see that, but there was a lady that got up and talked about a condition that she had, that changed with one meditation. Some people go there with some very debilitating illnesses and disease, and that's kind of their last stop, and they're really sort of wanting that change. Um, so yeah, for me, that really got me into a great mindset with meditation and how to meditate, and it just completely changed me. During that week, we were meditating for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, which I wouldn't be normally doing. Um, I had 3 healing sessions as well during that time, which he led, which was very powerful. Each time felt completely different experience. Um, but that is when I thought, okay, there's more to this than just taking pills and thinking that that's that. Like there's so much that we can be doing with our mindset, and meditation is such a powerful tool to get beyond that your physical self and into this new, identity that we can all create for ourselves.
Yes, yes, I completely agree. I started my spiritual journey, I told you, last year when during one of my meditation session, this book that I have to publish appeared in my eye. And
Mm.
my husband was saying actually that, yeah, right, that's not gonna happen. How are you gonna pull it off? And 8 months later, we had a book published. So
Mm.
these are just things that happen during meditation, but that's just one example. It's incredible what the mind is capable. And healing is, I think, another thing that you can do.
Yeah, and I think going to that sort of style of that sort of event really does open your mind to that. I think previous to that, you might be thinking this is not possible. But when you actually physically see it and he talks through the science behind what he does as well, and it's all tracked. So he's very good at tracking everything that he does. He's got, scientists following him and all the data's there to show the changes in the brain. And it's fascinating.
Did you listen to his book, Becoming Supernatural?
I've got it. Yes, yes. It's very good. Yes. He's
Any,
such an interesting guy as well, like such a really beautiful human. Like you could just listen to him for hours. He's just got so much knowledge and so many stories. Yeah, you should definitely go because in America he's always there.
yeah, yeah. And once the kids become a little bit older, now they are 5 and 3, it's gonna be easier to just get away a little bit more than one night.
Yeah.
Uh, so what's the next step in your journey?
So I've been looking at lots of different things. So after that flare, I actually changed my neurologist. So I found a different neurologist. I just didn't feel like I was completely gelling with the one that I had. So I actually found a different one. And that's something that I always recommend, encourage people to get second opinions and be comfortable with the practitioners that you've got in your sort of health team. Um, so I went and saw him. He told me about a new medication that we've got. You might have it too, called Mavenclad. And it's a medication that you take for 5 days, then you take it again at 5 weeks, and then you take it again at 5 months. It's not a medication that you take all the time, which I liked. I didn't like taking Tecfidera all the time, and I wasn't keen on going in once a month for
Mm.
the ones that you take in hospital. Um,
What was
it
the reason
turned
you didn't want to do that?
well, I knew that I just didn't feel like it was going to help me. I think in my mind, it wasn't going to be good because I'm going into hospital all the time. You sort of feel like I'm just not getting. I didn't think mentally it would be good. I felt like it would make me feel worse.
Yeah.
Um, and I also that you have to be careful with some of those medications if you've had the JC virus because it cannot be great for brain. So I got tested for JC virus and I have it. So I can't actually take a lot of those medications. But the oral medication, Mavenclad, I could take. So I've taken that twice. So otherwise, I'm not taking anything else. And I've found that medication to actually be okay. I didn't have any adverse side effects. And although it is an immunosuppressant, my immune system's pretty robust. So that's sort of happening on the side. On top of that, I've still, changed, keeping to my diet. Um, I still see a fair amount of practitioners. So I see a naturopath as well. I have a big focus on gut health at the moment. So getting my gut health as good as it can be. So I take a lot of herbs. I get my blood work done regularly. I've started talking about my journey as well. I think that's a very healing process. I think at times, for a long time, I didn't want to talk about my journey. I didn't want to tell people about it. I kind of pretended it wasn't happening. And I think the more that you become comfortable with it, and you set those boundaries about how you're trying to manage your health, it can actually also be very healing to kind of do what you're doing and sort of talk about your journey to help others that might be going down on a similar path. So I've started doing that online as well.
It's part of our
Um,
life now, so if you don't embrace it, then it's just gonna bring us down secretly, you know?
yes, yeah. No, I think it is good to talk about it, and yeah, but I think there's so much healing that goes on with it too. Like a lot of the Gable Mate stuff really resonated with me. So, setting boundaries with people, sort of following what I really wanted to do. So I stopped working in a family business. I completely changed my whole career path. Um, I made a huge focus on nervous system health, so really slowing down the nervous system so it's not overstimulated and not in that fight or flight mode. I do a lot of, practice. I'm a yoga teacher, so I practice yoga and teach yoga as well. So a lot of those, it's become a whole thing, mindset and way of being for me. So, sometimes you think it's not a great having the diagnosis, but sometimes it happens for a reason. There might be parts of our life that are just not in alignment. So it comes in to show us where we're not in alignment and helps us get back into alignment.
Yeah, you think that's why the MS diagnosis came to your life?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Mm.
There was a lot of healing that needed to happen, and my body was just in fight or flight. I do think the nervous system health has a huge amount to do with it. Um, so being in that sort of stressed state in it for long periods of time is just not good for your health. So it took
Yeah.
me a long time to get out of that state.
Yeah, I agree. When I was diagnosed almost 6 years ago now, I I was completely blindsided. I had no idea about how bad my diet is, how bad my lifestyle is. I had no idea that anxiety is eating me alive, basically. So
Mm.
I'm not saying it came in the right time, but it definitely was an eye-opening and life-changing. And when I say that I'm actually thankful for the MS diagnosis, a lot of people look at me that I'm crazy, but
Mm.
I was able to change everything, and have a healthier pregnancy and be more aware. Although it's it was really, really hard when you try to navigate a complete different diet and
Mm.
figure out how to eat as a healthy as a new mom, and focus on yourself. It's
Mm.
super hard.
Yeah, because you're dealing with fatigue as well, like not getting enough sleep. So it's
Yeah.
definitely that's probably very challenging.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's how I knew that I'm doing the without medication and or anything. I knew that I'm on the right path, and I choose this, and it's working because even not sleeping and not getting the right nutrients, I was still doing good. I didn't have any relapses. So it's
Mm.
I feel like that's why we are having these calls, and that's why I just want to put more stories out because it's very important for people to know that MS can be just associated with like going downhill. It can be the opposite.
Yeah. And nutrition has such a big role in that, I think. Sometimes we don't realize how, we could be so deficient in something and not realize. So it's very important to keep an eye on your vitamin and mineral levels, but yeah, making sure that we're eating the right food. Um, a book that I'm reading at the moment, I'd mentioned to you, was The Medical Medium.
Yes.
That's also fascinating. Oh, so many rabbit holes, but he talks a lot about nutrition too, and heavy metal detoxing and um, foods like celery juice, which are very simple foods but make such a huge difference to your health.
It
Huge
was the
difference.
second book I read. I listened to after Dr. Wall's book, and at that time, I was not spiritual. I believed in God a long time ago, and then my dad passed away, and I questioned God and
Mm,
questioned everything. And then I was listening to his book, and I was like, okay, I have to just select what's relevant to me at that time, making celery juice and get my health back. But I feel like I have to real listen to the entire thing because he has like hidden messages about how the soul and spirit and all of those things that it's more current in my life, like now that I'm more aware of how it's all connected. Like even drinking celery juice is not going to help you unless you believe that it will help you.
mm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I say that a lot too. And I also had a very similar experience. My dad passed away too. So sometimes when we go through those very traumatic, stressful events that can sort of lead us down a different path. I did the same thing. I started questioning everything. That led me down a very spiritual rabbit hole, I say. Um, but yeah, you do still have to be in the right mindset. It was a main reason why I didn't want to talk a lot about it because I was not sure how my thought and view on managing the illness would be perceived. And I didn't go down I didn't become a victim to the illness either. I still try to keep a fairly positive mindset and not take on the identity of that too much. I was worried that, in talking about my journey, I'd get a whole lot of people
Negative.
coming at me.
Yes, you
Yeah,
asked me that last time, like how do I
yeah,
deal with if people are attacking me or not agreeing with me?
yeah,
And that's a great question because those people are taking away your energy in a way.
yes, yeah,
But number one, there are ways that you can get your energy back. Number two, I feel like those people need the most help,
mm,
way. So me, you talking, hopefully they're gonna see another 50 people talking and something's gonna click and
mm,
they're not gonna attack us anymore. They're gonna start feeling better.
yeah. That's right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to talk more about have these sorts of conversations because it just gives a different perspective. It doesn't have to be all bad.
yes. So where can people find you if they want
Um,
questions? So I know you are thinking to start like a community. You're into
yeah.
yoga and all these alternative healings.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Tess_Mello, Mello, wellness, which is the name of something I want to start. Yes, I'd love to now I'm in the middle of finishing my Pilates teacher training, which I'm hoping to finish at the end of this year. But yeah, I love things all yoga, meditation, Pilates. So creating an online community that everyone can access is something I want to do next. Almost like a healing community with resources and, where people can come and connect that are like-minded. But then also have some a wellness space that people can come and do Pilates and yoga and connect and have some practitioners there like the naturopath and acupuncturist and kinesiologist that can also help people on their journeys.
It sounds amazing. I wish there's a place like that over here. I have my yoga studio, I have my functional neurologist, I have my acupuncturist, I have all this, but I don't have a
Yeah.
place where I can get everything, you know?
Yes, I know. I'm the same. I go there for one thing and over there for one. Why can't it all just be together? So that's the ultimate goal, to have something like that where everyone can come and do all the things.
Do you do any red light therapies or any,
Yes.
yes?
Yes, so that's something else I'd like to have in the space, some saunas, some magnesium. I don't know if you have had that before. It's like a magnesium bath, which you lie in for an hour. It's very soothing, relaxing for the nervous system. That's something else I've done. Um,
I do a lot of Epsom salt bathing, like
yes.
once a week at least. It's really
Hmm.
good, detoxing also.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, there's a few things that I'd like to put into the space, but it definitely would be saunas in there. I think saunas are great. That there's a sauna in my Pilates studio, so it's yeah, they're also another great addition to managing MS if you're feeling okay with the heat for
Yeah.
45 minutes. Yeah.
So overall, what would you tell to previous yourself when you were diagnosed like 2 years ago and you just heard the news in the doctor's office? Like, what would you tell to that person?
Oh, I remember that moment, like I was in my car and I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, how is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And it's very frightening when you're diagnosed with anything, I think, because you're thinking the worst. You're thinking, how is this going to affect my health? Um, how's this going to affect my life? What's going to happen? It's very scary. I think the whole medication thing is very scary if you're not used to going down that, taking medication. So yeah, I think I would have said to myself then, everything's going to be okay. You're going to find some wonderful practitioners that are going to help you. Um, it's come up for a reason, and you'll be fine. I've always thought I'll be fine, um, and you'll experience a lot of growth, personal growth throughout your journey, but everything will be okay.
Do you have any fear?
Sometimes I do get into some fear. I think definitely when I go to get MRIs done, I don't, that's always a bit of fear around that, about what they might find. Um, they've been pretty stable though, since I've been diagnosed. Um, Sometimes when I talked about watching Matt's Ambrose video that he had, that his movie that he created, which
Living
I
proof?
really, yeah, Living Proof, which I really enjoyed. But watching that is very confronting as
Yes.
well. So although I really enjoyed that, watching it, I felt a lot of fear after that afterwards. Um, so yes, I still at times can feel fear, but I try and just sort of, step back a little bit from it and try not to buy into it too much. And,
Stay
you
in the
know,
present moment instead of
yeah,
projecting anything.
yeah. And I think protecting your energy too, if you're an empathetic person like I am, I take on a lot of people's energy. It's very important to keep your energy field clear.
You will have to look up Donna Aiden. She is the guru of energy medicine, and I tried her techniques and it's really, really working. Like once you feel
Um,
like your energy is drained and
yeah.
you just fatigue, you feel fatigue, like you do these exercises. I can't show you right now, but I would have to stand up, but they really work. They do work.
Oh, okay.
She actually
Oh,
has she actually has a course on mindvalley.com. Uh,
okay.
it's very good.
Yes. Oh, I'll check that out. Um, yeah, that's definitely something I notice if I'm getting a lot of fear that my energy's off and I have to clear and yoga's great for that though too, because it can help you move energy when you're feeling flat.
Yes.
Mm.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know it's like 2 o'clock in the morning at your time. I hope this was an exception and you usually sleep at this time.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed chatting. Yeah, sometimes the time difference is off, but it's okay. I'm
Yeah,
happy to chat.
thank you. I hope I see you soon. Is there
Yeah,
anything else you would like to share?
um, probably lots. Maybe we can talk again.
All right, sounds good. We can always do like an Instagram live or something that usually I post as well on YouTube. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, sounds good.
have a good evening.